evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. A coffee machine causes this huge fire at Fleet Services. 100 firefighters tackle the flames. Today, the extent of the damage becomes clear.
The ancient woodland earmarked for thousands of new homes. The local MP is outraged.
It's like the Wild West when it comes to Eastleigh. It is hostile development on green spaces.
Schools in West Sussex find out they have work to do after the primary school league tables are published.
And all sorted for Christmas. There was a busy day on the cards for postal workers right across our region. Good evening. It's believed a coffee machine is the cause of a fire which destroyed part of the Fleet Services on the M3. It took more than 100 firefighters most of last night to fight the flames. It was feared the fire would spread to a hotel and petrol station.
Well, the fire is thought to have started in the KFC restaurant at Fleet Services on the southbound side of the motorway at 10:30 p.m. A dozen staff were evacuated, but no one was injured. Most of the building has been destroyed.
Firefighters say that if the blaze had happened during the day, lives could have been lost. Richard Slee has our story.
It's thought the fire started in a coffee machine in one of the restaurants. Firefighters were on the scene in about 10 minutes, but by then the fire was quickly spreading through the main building. A major incident was declared and about 100 firefighters then fought the blaze for 6 hours before it was brought under control. One issue was a lack of water, with multiple water carriers needed due to low pressure in the on-site hydrants. Throughout the morning they've been damping down, but most of the restaurant area has been gutted.
The building is quite old, it's been refurbed a number of times, and the roof structure is there's a number of different sections, so there's quite a lot of hidden fire spread above the false ceilings, which made it very difficult, because clearly when the fire intensifies, it's not safe to put firefighters in there, so some of the firefighting would have been from outside, and that's why we're still damping down. That will take us probably in the rest of the day.
Overnight, the M3 was closed due to the amount of smoke, but 2 lanes were reopened this morning. The footbridge over the motorway is also closed due to smoke damage. The investigation into the cause of the fire is already underway, and by the end of today, the petrol station is expected to be back in business. It will be some time, though, before this part of the service station reopens. But over the next few days, the owners say they're going to bring in some temporary buildings, so there are some facilities for motorists. Richard Slee, ITV News at Fleet Services.
A Hampshire MP says Eastleigh is fast becoming the Wild West for developers, and the local council needs to get a grip on the dire planning situation.
Eastleigh MP Mims Davis is backing campaigners who are angry at plans to build thousands of new homes near ancient woodland.
More than 16,000 new homes are needed in Eastleigh over the next 20 years. Only 1,200 of those have been built so far. Councillors meeting tonight have been urged to back one option that would see more than 6,000 homes built north of Bishopstoke and Fair Oak. That would also see a major new road near Stoke Park Woods linking the M3. Well, another option would see houses built on land between Allington Lane and Burnet's Lane, north of the M27. Well, Rachel Hepworth is live for us outside that council meeting in Hedge-End. Rachel, campaigners have turned out in numbers, determined to make themselves heard.
Yes, they certainly have. They're very polite protesters here in Eastleigh, but they're also incredibly passionate, particularly about this area of land north of Bishopstoke and Fair Oak, where they say development the size of a small town will have a hugely detrimental effect both on their communities and on the environment. In particular, an area of ancient woodland known as Stoke Park Woods, where earlier today I was shown around by countryside expert Rob Byrne. Now, he believes that the environmental impact of development here would be devastating.
Stretches like this are very, very rare. This is the largest tract of woodland in the borough. It's very accessible. People come up here to walk, to horse ride, to cycle, and it's very, very important that they're protected. In fact, the Woodland Trust listed this on their national website as being one of the 16 most at-risk woodlands.
Well, the Eastleigh MP, Mims Davis, has been very vocal on this issue, and she's urging council leaders to listen to residents. She says it's most important that green spaces don't become a free-for-all for developers.
I have been on record of saying it's like the Wild West when it comes to Eastleigh. It is hostile development on green spaces. They're getting ancient woodland which will be bulldozed by developers of choice, ones which have already a cosy relationship with the council. They've already got over 1,000 homes approved at Stoneham Park. That is also on a strategic gap between Eastleigh and Southampton.
But the truth is there's a chronic lack of affordable housing in this part of the world. Some 16,000 new homes need to be built in the next 20 years, and they have to go somewhere, of course. Planners here have been criticised for not having a coherent and up-to-date plan, but the leader of the council says they're never going to please everybody all of the time.
We recognise we can't please everybody, but it's important that we also listen to those voices that are perhaps not attending the meeting this evening, those voices which are typically younger people who can't get on the housing ladder because housing supply has been constrained for years and house prices are so high. So we've got to think about all those things. Affordable housing for people who will never buy their own home. All of these issues need planning, and we need to respect those voices as well as the many people who will come along this evening to our council meeting.
Well, one of the campaigners here tonight is Jen Tidridge, and you've heard there that these houses have to go somewhere. Why shouldn't they be built in this area north of Bishopstoke?
I'm not opposing this scheme because my home would be affected, because it won't be. The reason why I'm opposing this scheme is it's going to be devastating for the local ecology. It's going to impact 2 sites of ancient natural woodland. It's going to impact the Treble SI, the River Itchen, which has got European status. It's going to be terrible for the local communities. In particular, this development will not be sustainable. We're taking lots of really great advice from some experts on traffic, on planning, etc., and everybody concludes that this is not the right place for these houses. Absolutely, houses need to be built, but why not build at Allington? There's a railway line there, there can be a station there, and that's certainly going to go some way to alleviate some of the traffic issues that all those extra houses will create.
You're obviously very passionate about it. How far will you and other protesters go in order to stop this from happening?
We'll be opposing it all the way. We all feel so strongly that this is just the wrong thing for Eastleigh. It's not right for Eastleigh Borough as a whole to have a development that destroys what's special about the area.
Thank you ever so much. The meeting starts at 7 o'clock tonight. No decision here, but it might take us some way to being clearer about what path the council would take.
More on our late news. Rachel, for now, thank you.
Organisers of festivals say they remain committed to supporting the Isle of Wight through music and charity, despite announcing the festival is to leave the island. Festival has been held at the Robin Hill Country Park near Newport for the last 13 years. Next September, it will move to the Lulworth Estate in Dorset, the site of its sister family-friendly event, Camp Festival. Organisers say they are planning a new event for the island.
It's a boring economic fact that it is expensive to get to the island. It's expensive to bring all our gear over here, stages, sound systems. You know, we've had to import a total festival every year, so that has just added up and up over the years, and it's just become kind of prohibitive. If we hadn't moved off the island, we would not be here next year. That's the simple fact.
What it creates is a new opportunity, something that will create maybe with Rob the Bank or maybe with a number of other organisations in the future. So, you know, I'm not fearful of this. I just think this is evolution.
In football, Southampton were held to a goalless draw at Stoke despite playing against 10 men for more than an hour. Stoke's Marko Arnautovic was sent off, and though they enjoyed a lot of possession, Saints didn't take their chances, the best of which fell to Jay Rodriguez. The result leaves Saints 9th in the Premier League, level on points with Bournemouth.
And for more on all of our stories, you can head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, you can call us on 0808 1010 095 or get in touch via Facebook, or you can send us a tweet at ITV Meridian.
talks between the union that represents train drivers and bosses of Southern Rail ended today without both sides agreeing a deal to end the strike.
It means no services will again run tomorrow on the network. This evening, commuters from the south are protesting in London. They want the government to step in and do more to sort out the dire situation.
Our reporter Derek Johnson is in the capital tonight. Derek.
Well, we're here with very frustrated commuters at Victoria Station in London, holding a demonstration before they go on to the offices of the Department for Transport. They are simply fed up at these ongoing delays and cancellations from Southern trains, and of course more bad news today with the talks staged with ACAS breaking down. Southern Rail saying that the unions aren't listening to them, the union saying the door is still open. That means the strike will continue again tomorrow as was planned, the third this week. There was a 48-hour strike, as we know, that began on Monday. I'm joined now by one of the commuters who's also a Liberal Democrat, Kelly Marie Blundell. What's your reaction and what do you think about what people are doing?
Well, I think they're absolutely fantastic. I'm completely supporting what they're doing. They have been out campaigning for a judicial review and they're quite right in calling for Grayling to resign. We have seen up to 80% of our trains cut in Lewis and we are seeing more and more problems and disruption. It's a misnomer to say it's all about the strikes. On non-strike days we're seeing delays. I was delayed getting here today. We need to do something and the government is complicit in not acting.
Well, hang on, Chris Grayling, the Transport Secretary, he's trying to put a line in the sand and saying he doesn't want to cave into union pressure and he wants Southern to sort it out. That's fair enough, isn't it?
There weren't strikes over the summer and we had replacement bus services for most of it. This isn't about the unions, this is about the government failing to get Southern to adhere to the contract. The unions aren't helping, I'm not going to deny that, but actually what we need is the government to stand up, put Southern in special measures, take away the contract and give us our trains back.
Thank you very much. Well, the issue's been going on for many months involving both ASLEF, which represents the train drivers, and the RMT union as well. Various complaints, the main one being about drivers not having conductors being in charge of the carriage doors opening and closing. As I say, the talks seem to have got nowhere, but all sides saying that the door is still open. Hopefully there could be talks in future, perhaps in the next weeks, hopefully in the next few days, but unfortunately the strike will go ahead as planned from midnight tonight.
Derek Johnson reporting there. Meanwhile, Brighton Pavilion MP Caroline Lucas emphasised she'd done nothing wrong in not declaring she'd accepted money from the rail union, the RMT.
She issued a statement showing the funds had been declared in a register of members' interests, exactly as parliamentary protocol required. Malcolm Shaw has our report.
Caroline Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't think the Prime Minister has any idea of the level of suffering and pain that rail passengers and businesses in Brighton and beyond are suffering.
She's been a savage critic of the government's handling of the rail dispute. Caroline Lucas has called for GTR to be stripped of its franchise and the Transport Secretary to be sacked. But has the Brighton Pavilion MP got an axe to grind? 2 years ago, she accepted a donation of £7,000 from the RMT union, and she quite properly declared that in the Register of Members' Financial Interests. But according to the political blogger Guido Fawkes, she should also have flagged up that donation when speaking during Prime Minister's questions. On his website, he asks, wasn't Caroline trying to influence the Prime Minister on behalf of her RMT sponsors? We asked people in the Green MP's constituency what they thought.
No, I don't think it's right, because, they might take it innocently in the first place, but later down in life it comes out and kicks you, doesn't it?
I think it's one of the defining factors in a political campaign is obviously they require the donations to be able to afford to be elected.
I think once you've accepted any form of money, then you should declare it, and then you should say, because of that, even though I've declared it, I shouldn't take any further part because I've been compromised.
Caroline Lucas wasn't available for interview on camera today, but she maintains she's done nothing wrong. Caroline Lucas's office has sent us an extract from the Code of Conduct for MPs. It states that members are not required to declare an interest if to do so would unduly impede the business of the House, for example during oral questions, when asking supplementary questions, or when responding
to a ministerial statement. With the ongoing dispute on the railway's polarising opinion, MPs are likely to face criticism, whoever they side with. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Brighton.
Now, when 11-year-olds took their end of primary test this year, the exams hit the headlines because of how hard they were.
Well, today the results of those SATs tests were released in the form of the primary school performance tables.
In our region, here's a snapshot of how well children performed in reading, writing and maths. The highest result was in Wokingham, where 61% of children met the expected level in all 3 subjects. Surrey also did well with 60%. In Hampshire and Windsor and Maidenhead, the figure was 59%. 56% of pupils in West Berkshire met expected levels, 52% in Oxfordshire. And at the other end of the spectrum, on the Isle of Wight, 49% did. The percentage in Portsmouth was 48%. And Dorset and West Sussex were amongst the lowest in the country, with 45% of children meeting expected levels.
But how much should parents read into the results? Here's our social affairs correspondent, Christine Alsford.
The school nativity, enough to put a smile on the face of every proud parent. But today's performance tables brought little good cheer to the school community at Barnes Green Primary at Horsham in West Sussex. Results here showed 14% of pupils achieved the expected standard across maths, reading and writing in completely new tests for 11-year-olds. They don't think it means their children aren't doing well, more that there are problems with the system.
Last year was a complete shambles in terms of what tests they were sitting and what they weren't. So it's a very mixed message, very confusing. I think that we've still got a long way to go before they iron out all the difficulties in assessment and testing.
2016, we had children who were being given a test on a 6-year curriculum after having studied it for 2 years. Things are changing, and the things that are now the focus of the curriculum, we're getting better at doing them.
Here they say the difficulties with the performance tables include the way writing has been judged, leading to inconsistency between different parts of the country. Some say this alone is why West Sussex has now dropped to become one of the lowest performers, despite a high number of good and outstanding schools. And one teaching union says the data's so flawed it should be ignored.
If we're going to use data to hold schools to account, one thing we have to make sure is that data is reliable. And unfortunately, because of the way the tests were designed and the assessments were designed last summer, the data is completely unreliable. And we've been very clear, because the data is so unreliable, it should not have been published, because it's giving a misleading picture to parents and to the public.
The tougher new tests prompted strikes by parents and pupils earlier this year. Yet the government says they're raising expectations, and many schools have responded well to the demands of a more rigorous curriculum. But opinion among parents on what our children are being taught and tested on remains split.
The tests that they're doing, I feel, are beyond their years. So they're going to struggle. You know, there is no question.
I do think it's unfair on them to put that much pressure on them. I think it's unfair on the teachers as well.
Standards being raised is really important to me, but as long as it's not at the expense of, well-being for the children.
Schools have welcomed the promise of no more change to SATs assessments for 2 years and continue to argue that there's a need to value more than one type of performance.
And Christine is with us now. Christine, who has done particularly well in these tables?
Well, if you're looking for high flyers, Surrey has several schools where every single pupil has met or exceeded these tough new standards. But this is also about the schools which are above or below the so-called floor target set by the government. If schools are below, they are classed to be failing. And we've got some very good news on that front. 35 areas nationally are areas where there are no schools below this floor target. We have 5 of them: Reading, Portsmouth, Windsor and Maidenhead, Hampshire and also Wokingham.
Christine, the government says you can't compare this year's tables with last year's because they're testing completely different things. But is there a change in the overall picture that we're seeing that's being reflected in these tables?
Well, my impression is that there is this widening gap between the very best performing schools and the lowest performing schools. And also it does seem that the data is very much more complicated for parents to understand. So this is going to take a long time for everybody to get used to, I think.
Christy, thank you very much.
Now, are you a parent who finds it difficult getting your children to put down their tablets or phones? How often have you looked at your smartphone today? Or what about your computer or laptop? Well, every day, on average, we're told we spend about 9 hours in front of our screens.
And experts think it's too much and should be reduced near bedtime, especially for children, as it can affect sleep. Lorna Pritchard has been to meet one family who have introduced a screen limit at home.
There are 4 teenagers in this family, so home life is never quiet. And that's partly, of course, down to technology.
Well, everybody's got a phone and everybody's probably nearly got an iPad and they use them regularly and they wouldn't be parted from their phones, I think, usually. But they use it as well as, you know, the games and for fun. It's actually quite useful for homework. And in school, there used to be a ban on using the phone in school, and now it's been brought into the curriculum.
And new research suggests making sure your child puts technology away well before bedtime is crucial. The routines of 500 teenagers were studied, as well as their use of phones and other screens.
The interesting thing we found was that young people who felt tired in the mornings were those that were using their social media during the night, perhaps in a kind of uncontrolled way as well, without their parents knowing about it. We are worried that that has some detrimental effect on how they are the next morning in preparation for school.
Knowing this, the Morrises have established strict rules to get away from the small screen and get a good night's sleep.
After, I'd say 10:30, we have to put it on airplane mode. All the phone things and all the things to do with Wi-Fi goes off, and then nothing will disturb you during your sleep, basically.
Well, we've all heard an email in our own phones bleep in the night, so making sure it's off for our own sake as well. You know, we need to turn off our phones. We need to have, you know, restful sleep and be able to, know what's going on.
And according to this latest research, getting parents to enforce that has never been more important. Lorna Pritchard, ITV News.
Now look away from your screens, because in 10 days at this time of the day, many of us will be full of Christmas dinner, having eaten a big turkey roast with all the trimmings.
Yes, but what's the true cost of bringing the family together around the table? Well, the Tonight team on ITV have been finding out how we can all save ourselves a packet on the nation's festive favourite by changing how we shop.
Well, their programme airs this evening here on ITV, but before that, here's a preview of some of the show's findings from Matt Price.
It takes weeks to plan, hours to cook, but just minutes to eat. And across the country, we spend £20 billion on food and drink in the run-up to the big day. Trudy Bryant is one amateur cook contributing to that figure.
I absolutely love Christmas, but every time I go shopping, I just spend too much money.
Crackers, crisps, cakes and booze, it all adds up.
When I come shopping, I never make a list. I just walk round and pick up what I fancy picking up.
So that's £308.98, please.
OK. Thank you, bye.
But it doesn't have to be that expensive, with one study claiming turkey and all the trimmings can be cooked for just £2.48 per head if you shop around. Kate Hardcastle is a consumer expert. She never pays over the odds, but can she help Trudy?
Of course I can. The trick is preparation, preparation, preparation. We are going to help you save a lot.
Figures show that if you're prepared to shop around and be a little more money savvy, the price of Christmas dinner has actually fallen by more than 10% since 2009.
Trudy, what are we doing now? This is a pre-made cheese board with the board as well that we're paying for. We're here to save you money. That is not how we're going to do it. We're going to go and find the cheese you need in the quantities you need and pay less. Come on, let's save this cash.
So what are Kate's top tips for saving money?
Anyone at this time of year, I would give the same advice, which is start with preparation. Make a list. Make sure you don't buy things just because you're feeling a bit more festive. And more than anything, try own brands. See what else you could do to get great value out of your shop.
So that's £134.49.
Proof it can be done. So what has Trudy taken away from it all?
To plan more, I think, and to do it by list. There's everything in there that I originally had, but at a cheaper price.
The Tonight's programme will also investigate whether paying a premium for your turkey is really worth it, and while counting the cost might be important, so too is counting the calories. It's on this evening at 7:30 on ITV. Matt Price, ITV News.
We shall be watching, well, the 15th of December, that's today, is the busiest day of the year for our poor old posties. Hundreds of thousands of cards, letters and parcels are collected, sorted and delivered as our love affair with Christmas cards apparently continues.
I haven't written one yet.
Have you not? No, you've not sent me one.
No, I will though.
Okay.
At this time of year, extra staff have been drafted in by Royal Mail to cope with the bumper post bags. Our reporter Penny Sylvester got up very early this morning to join staff at Reading Sorting Office to give us an insight into their operation.
These are the men and women tasked with making sure your Christmas presents and cards arrive on time. It's the busiest time of the year for staff at the Medway Mail Centre in Rochester. Between them, Bob and Dave have 64 years' experience at the Royal Mail. They've seen huge change over the years, particularly in what is sent through the post at Christmas time.
People are ordering more and more Christmas parcels now. It used to be, many years ago, it was letters, more so. Now it's turned to parcels now.
The Medway Mail Centre covers all of Kent and some parts of East Sussex. More than 3 million items are sorted here every day. 1.3 million of those are Christmas related. The centre employs 640 permanent staff with an extra 500 taken on to deal with the Christmas rush. One of those is Natalie Weiren, taken on a few weeks ago as a seasonal dispatch worker.
Yes, I'll definitely come back next year, yeah. A lot of people do come every year, like Christmas season, and that, yeah, it's very good.
Some of the cards are sorted manually, especially if they're incorrectly addressed or have the wrong postage. The majority pass through these machines, which can read addresses and postcodes. There are 6 of these automated machines at this mail centre, each capable of sorting up to 40,000 cards and letters every hour.
It is very busy for us, it is Christmas, but we've organised a lot of additional people to help us with that Christmas rush. We've got the resources.
The last post before Christmas for second-class mail is on Tuesday, with Wednesday for first class. And don't forget that planned strike by post office staff next week. The Royal Mail is not taking part.
Tom Savides with that report. All we need now is a spot of festive snow. Will we get it? I doubt it. Let's find out. Here's Martin Stew.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Hello again. It's been a largely cloudy day out there with a few patchy outbreaks of rain. Certainly not feeling that festive, though. No chance of any snow because we've still got unseasonably mild temperatures. And after a bit of rain tonight, well, the picture as we go towards the weekend is one that's going to be largely cloudy and largely dry and turning a bit cooler as well. Not really chilly, but just temperatures getting back down to what we'd expect, really, for this time of the year. Very settled as well, because for the south and southeast of the UK, high pressure starting to take over, and that's bringing nice dry conditions. High pressure there acting like a dome, really, trapping in a fair bit of cloud. So it's going to be dull, it's going to be overcast, but on the plus side it'll be dry, so not too bad if you're planning some Christmas shopping on Saturday or on Sunday. Out there tonight, well, some patchy outbreaks of rain scattered around pretty much anywhere, really. Quite a thick blanket of low cloud, so feeling a bit damp for many of us. Not too breezy, and again, it is going to be an unseasonably mild night, so temperatures not dipping much below 7 or 8 degrees, which is what we normally expect for daytime highs. Through tomorrow morning, any patchy drizzly rain soon fizzling out, but we hold on to that blanket of low cloud. 1 or 2 patches of mist, so not fantastic visibility, and a bit of a dull day as well. Temperatures a shade down on what we've seen today, but still above average, so just sneaking double figures there. Southampton, Salisbury, Newport as well, basically along the south coast. And then as we look towards the weekend and the end of the week, well, things staying pretty settled. As I mentioned, that high pressure takes over. It's trapping in lots of cloud, so a largely dull picture. But the good news is it is going to be dry. Temperatures back down to what we normally expect, 7 or 8 degrees.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Sangeeta's got Outlet News, but from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks for watching. Take care.
See you later. Bye-bye.